Please like and subscribe in 2026 to help us buy a goat for a family in need. Thanks, and enjoy the video. Hi, this is Scott with Learn to Stop Hunger, and today we're going to look at part 3 of how to publish your first game this weekend with no-cost AI tooling. Part 3 we're going to cover creating a project and setting up source control. So the first thing that we'll do is we're going to create a folder for our project, and I'm going to do that on the D drive. Let's see. Let's see here. I'm going to put it under Documents, Projects, New Folder. I'm going to call this, if you remember, we're going to make a game inspired by the Atari 2600 game Dodge 'em. We're going to call this Ram-'em. Name it Ram-'em. I'm going to open the folder. And now I am going to go to a command prompt in this folder by typing CMD and launching it. What I want to do here now is I've already installed Git in part 2. I'm going to type git init. So we initiated an empty repository there. And the next thing that we want to do is we want to add a git ignore file. The git ignore file will help us when we go to make a commit. We won't be committing extra files that are not needed to be stored, such as debugging binaries and DLLs and such. So what I'm going to do here, there's actually a project out on GitHub. I'm going to go to github.com/github/gitignore, and there are a lot of different standard git ignore files out in this project. We're going to do the Visual Studio one. If I can find it here, visualstudio.gitignore. So I'm going to go ahead and download that file. I'm going to open that in my downloads folder, copy it, and I'm going to paste it. And let's see. We want the file to be called .gitignore. Alright, so yes, we do want this .gitignore file to be in the root of the folder that we created. We can open it up and take a look at it here real quick. Notepad is fine. And you can see there's just a listing that is telling Git which files to not save to source control. It's got a lot of different things that it's looking for there. That just keeps some of the junk out of our repository, keeps it a little bit cleaner. And as you can see, when we ran that git init command, it actually created this .git folder. So the next thing that we want to do is to add a Gemini rules file. So we're going to add a .gemini folder in our root folder here. And we want to create a file inside here called, let's see, we'll do a new text document. And we're going to call it Gemini.md. MD is for Markdown. And yes, we can change the file type. Okay, and what this is, it's going to be rules for our AI assistant, giving it just a few guidelines as far as actions to take when it's assisting us in writing code. So I'm going to go ahead and just open this with Notepad. And I've got some examples from a previous file that I had here. We want to have these different, these are kind of the headings that I've worked with before. So kind of copying and pasting some stuff out of a previous one. And you can go off of this if you want to. So here, my coding standards that I had, I've had problems in the past with Gemini doing more than I want it to. So I've said in here, do not do more than I ask you to. I've had it, sometimes I will make manual modifications that I don't want to be changed. And so I tell it, do not replace manually modified code unless it's necessary for the current request. I like my new classes to be stored in separate code files. And then this may not be relevant for this project. When adding new settings, add them to all app settings files. I'm actually going to take that out because I don't think we're not going to have these multiple app settings in this project. I did have that in another project I was working on. And then we can use this just as a little summary. This is a simple one-screen game inspired by Dodgem on the Atari 2600. The player drives a car and tries to avoid crashing into the computer's car, and then the project is written using MonoGame in C#. That just gives just a little bit of background for the AI, and that'll be good enough for a starting point. Then the next thing that we want to do is, let's see, okay, so we actually want to start Visual Studio. And I do have, let's see, this is Visual Studio 2022. Like I showed in the previous video, you may have ended up with 2026, and it should be a very similar interface. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new project, and I am looking for the MonoGame cross-platform. Let's see here, MonoGame. Yes, cross-platform desktop application. And I'll hit next. So I want my project, yeah, we already came up with a name, Ramum, right? Let's see, okay. A little bit, oh, I see, okay. Actually, I missed. So we need the project name. And I want both the project name and the solution name to be the same. The project will be created here, that's fine. This is the folder that I already created. You want to make sure you do the folder that you already created, because that's where we initiated the source control repository. So I'll hit create. And let's see, this is going to create a bare bones project for us, and it should add just enough functionality that we can end up debugging it, let's see, and seeing just this basic functionality. So We'll go ahead and try to build this. Build solution. And it's going to take a minute here, as this is the first time that our project has been built. You can see in the lower left hand corner it says build started. Okay, and it says build 1 succeeded. Alright, so the build did succeed, so I want to go ahead and you can click debug, start debugging. You can do it that way. You can hit F5, or you can just click here where it says RAM them. That's the same as hitting F5. Okay, and so it launched just this basic blue screen, and that's kind of like the Hello World example of MonoGame. This is just our very basic application running now. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. Now the next thing that we want to do is go ahead and commit our changes to source control. So I'm going to go over here to this Get Changes tab. We can see all these different changes that have been added here. I'm going to go ahead and write a message for this and say, let's see, creating initial project. Okay, I'll commit all. Okay, so it's committed. You can actually see too, if you want to ever look at your history, go ahead and go to this Get menu. This is your source control history. Go to Manage Branches, and we're on the master branch, and you can see we only have one commit here, Create Initial Project. And if you want to look at what was included, you can go to right click and do View Commit Details. And it's going to show you each of the files that were included in that commit. And over time this is going to grow as we continue to make commits, and it'll give us the opportunity to roll back if we need to, which is great, especially when you have AI making some changes for you. So the final thing that I want to do in this part of the series is to go ahead and make sure that Gemini sees our rules file. So the way that we're going to access Gemini is in Visual Studio. We're going to go, let's see, View, Terminal. Okay, and you can see it started here on Developer PowerShell. We want to change that to Developer Command Prompt. Okay, and then we're going to type Gemini. And it should end up launching Gemini. Once it's launched, we're looking for some kind of recognition that it has seen our rules file. Okay, so right here you can see it says using one Gemini.md file, and that means that it found our rules file and it's going to be able to make use of that as it does coding updates for us. So that's definitely a good thing. So now we've completed the steps of our part 3. We've created a new project, and we've set up our project in a new source control repository. The next video, part 4, we'll be looking at starting to interact with our AI assistant and attempting to set up some basic gameplay for our game. So please watch out for the video, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon.